It's my song! Let's sing it! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Come on! It's gonna be fucking awesome! You know the words! It's gonna be fucking awesome! That's it! Sing! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Yeah!
Hey, hi, everybody, and waka, and all that cool shit. Care Bear stare out to you all my fellow coolest geeks out there in the world, trying to make it peaceful in this mad time. Everybody just wants to fight. I hate it. I hate it. I hate all the fighting, you know? It's like right now, it's like the Trump thing or whatever. It's like a large people voted this in, you know? You got to kind of like try to be optimistic and shit. It's really just like so much finger pointing and just constant fighting everywhere. Sucks. But we get to talk about fun shit because I've been wanting to talk about this for forever. This is one of my favorite, geeky subjects, The Flash, and specifically Wally West's Flash, and the missed opportunity that DC had with that character, and kind of what a bummer it has been, but it remains there for you guys to go find. There are two big runs. I have not read all of the Mark Waid run of Wally, but people love it. Don't make the mistake that I did, which is kind of like I just kept getting handed random trade paperbacks from that run, and I don't think that really does justice to a long comic book run like that where stories are seeded and things are built up. So I didn't necessarily like super vibe with those shorts. I mean, they weren't terrible or anything, but the High Velocity, I think, was one of them that I had read at the time. And, without the perspective of his whole run, I haven't been able to appreciate it. I plan to read Mark Waid's full Wally West run one day. I've read 3 or 4 things from it at this point, but like I said, I want to like get to the beginning and then read all the way through. However, what I did read and experience was starting with Grant Morrison's JLA, the Wally West Flash, which I loved. And when I got into the story that Jeff Johns was writing in The Flash, holy shit, I went back and I got all the stuff that he had written prior to that, and they were really sleeping on Jeff. I've talked about him a little bit before. I really feel for him and sort of commiserate for him because he's somebody who really kind of worships at the altar of Hollywood people. But he himself is brilliant. And there's a little bit of a tier system in like the entertainment thing of like where people think that like comic books are this smaller pond or like, people are going there because they don't have as much talent. Jeff is very talented. Very, very talented. I did the whole thing on his Green Lantern run. Man, amazing. The only stuff that I've ever read from him that was was pretty terrible. It's terrible for him, really. But it was just stuff that was very clearly sort of editorial mandate decisions that were out of his control, and he was just trying to make work with some of those things, like his New 52 Justice League. I really just about hate it. And it's like, if that's the only thing you've ever read from Jeff Johns, because that's been promoted so much, it's got Jim Lee's art on it and all that. Oh, God. Man, you're being deprived. He is a great writer. Famously, at a certain point with DC, he kind of got a little frustrated, and Marvel started knocking on his door because he wasn't really being respected over there, and he went over to Marvel for a little while and wrote The Avengers and a little Thing miniseries. Great stuff. Loved it. And quickly DC went, oh, fuck. We don't want to lose Jeff Johns. And that was when Green Lantern Rebirth came about, and eventually a bigger spotlight was put onto The Flash. But this was ultimately to the detriment of what was going on with The Flash. The Wally West Flash that was being written by Jeff Johns is DC's Spider-Man. His Uncle Barry died saving the world, demonstrating what it means to be a hero. And now he gets up every day putting on that same costume, dedicated to honoring the legacy of his mentor, who showed him what it meant to be a hero. He's the former Kid Flash, who was given great personality and exuberance because he was the Flash. He's fast. He's like the ADD character, which is Spider-Man. And on the Justice League, he is so much better a character to have than Barry Allen ever was, because he is this great, lighthearted, comedic foil who is the underclassman who's graduated and is trying to hang with the big boys, which is a real meaningful thing, being masked by humor and other things. And man, do I love Wally West. He is my Grayson, Dick Grayson, who was trying to live up to the mantle of the Bat, and his father, who was darker than him when he was a little different than his father. That always meant a lot to me because, my father figure, I felt that some of the ways that he thought and some of the ways that I thought were a little different. And then I had to find my own version of being myself within, wanting to honor this person who taught me everything I know, and then, Wally West, he has an even more sort of wide net, and sort of his Uncle Barry, for those of you who don't know, died in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is really the story that DC should have tried to build to, because this was the story where everything was pulled together in the comics to begin the great mythology. Supergirl ends up giving up her life. The Flash, Barry Allen, dies saving the universe. So those are some pretty big shoes to fill. It's like music never recovered when Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain passed away. It like stagnated for a minute because just like there was this just idea that we had to honor him in some way, and we couldn't dishonor this dead man who had brought about like what was still perhaps the biggest kind of musical vibe that had gone on in a long time. Now, I named my children after Wally West and Grayson. And famously in the comics, Dick Grayson and Wally West are best friends. They're good friends. They grew up on the Teen Titans together. They end up being on the Titans together at different times. Wally's on the Titans. And this is really the big thing. When Barry is brought back to life, Wally is made sort of redundant because they have filled Wally's former role with new Kid Flashes who are even more mentally challenged and, silly and exuberant and whatever. And they're exaggerated versions of Spider-Man. Wally, though, was sort of a quintessential Spider-Man with some next level powers, a certain level of scientific know-how that he was using to use his powers in interesting ways and do interesting things with it. I forget what his specific job, Wally's job is now off the top of my head. Maybe it'll come to me. I want to say he's a forensic scientist, but that's Barry Allen's job. They've so confused Barry and Wally in recent years. They did the show, and that's Barry, and it's based on like lots of the Barry things. And he's like a little bit more cutesy and a little bit more lighthearted, more like Wally. Barry wasn't really ever depicted like that. Barry was this forensic scientist. He was like a super goody-goody like Superman. Part of him dying was that, we need something, we need a better we need somebody with more character in the suit. And they really succeeded with Wally West. He just is a character that you want to love. And better even than Wally and Barry, because so many of them have come from Wally, is his rogues gallery, which it's so fucking insanely good, and there's a great setup with Warden Wolf and Iron Heights. Iron Heights is being powered by this villain named Fallout, who's a nuclear powered bad guy. Got a great look. So many of these characters have great looks, and I don't know if it was all Scott Collins doing like these designs and these redesigns at this time. But whoever was working, I know Ethan Van Sciver was involved in some of them as well. He did the Iron Heights one shot, which is so fucking great. I highly recommend all of Jeff Johns' run. I'll give you like a little bit of like a layout of like what that run entails in a little bit. But shit, man, the villains and there's a little bit of a thing that is annoying when often when the Flash and his villains, his rogues are shown, and they show you so many of these fucking derivatives of Zoom or derivatives of Professor Thorn. What do you want to call him? The Yellow Flash, the Reverse Flash. There's a lot of characters that have similar speed powers, and it's kind of annoying, especially because of how great the Flash's other villains are, and it kind of makes it seem like the Flash's universe is populated with all of these speed villains, and that is not the case. There are plenty, and honestly, I'm not sold on like any of them. I know a lot of Mark Waid's run is based on some of this shit, so maybe, you know, if I go in and I actually get into some of the stuff, but like, you know, the more the Speed Force and everything is turned into some, you know, thing that's like really hard to understand, the more I'm kind of like yawning. But I do appreciate various versions of clever uses of speed to dismantle clever villains and clever things that you may be up against. And oh man, the Flash has so many cool ones to talk about. First, you got Captain Cold, who's the dude in the you know, the parka. He looks like the Eskimo or whatever, but his personality and his like character has really been, I mean, Jeff Johns brought him to life in so many great ways. Him and the Rogues, they're all just like bitter criminals who are just aggravated that like this fucking guy keeps fucking with them, you know. And they have deeper ties in here, there, and there's much more depth to all of them as characters, and they're really great. At different times throughout the run, Jeff Johns did singular issues about various bad guys. I think starting with Captain Cold, Leonard Snart. And boy, you just, man, I remember just reading this shit monthly, just eating it up. Just, oh man, this is my fucking favorite book since The Savage Dragon, which the first 75 issues and the 3-issue miniseries and half issue that started off are some of the greatest comics on planet Earth. And then this became my new favorite book. I loved reading this Wally West Flash run. I can't recommend it enough. I think it's like maybe 60 issues or something. I have it written down in here. But so Captain Cold starts it off, because Captain Cold is like sort of the like antithesis. It's interesting. Like Zoom is like this evil version of Flash, and you know Superman has that in various ways, Zod and Bizarro, and you know, and Batman, you know, has that in some different ways, you know, like a Bane or Catman, and you know, a couple other people who are some aspect of Batman, like the Riddler or whatever, evil versions of him. Even the Scarecrow using fear the same way he uses fear, or whatever. The Leonard Snart is the Captain Cold. He's a very interesting foil to the Flash, because he's just a dude, like an angry dude. He's not particularly smart, but he's street smart and clever and vicious, and you know, but also he's got a code, and like they all have codes, you know, they all are. There's a lot of interesting morality and to all the rogues and all their different personalities and stuff, and I just, Leonard Snart, man, he's a favorite villain thanks to Jeff Johns. Continuing on, you got Mirror Master, which the one that Jeff works with the most in the thing is Evan McCulloch. And I'm not sure if I've read stories with the Sam Scudder. I was originally introduced to Mirror Master in, I think, Animal Man. And Mirror Master is a really cool character with interesting powers. And they've done a lot of great stuff with him. Again, a bit of career criminal kind of thing, but it's great. They have a lot of character, and it's been a while since I've read all these things. I would have loved to reread them all before I did the show, but just was looking for something to celebrate, and I love this. I wanted to chat about it for a long time, so I figured, let's do it. So Mirror Master is a great one because Mirror Master uses the mirror realm to traverse and move around and lots of trickery with the mirrors, and also there's a mirror realm, and one of the early first stories I think that Jeff Johns tells is him falling into the mirror realm. There's characters who end up, you find out, came from the mirror realm, and they're like evil versions of the characters. The mirror realm and the mirror master, they're fun, even though they're very like criminal level kind of like guys you hire, goons, and I mean maybe that's why I love them so much. There was something about Savage Dragon, and Eric Larson had said that he wanted a world where all of the villains, all of the guys who might be robbing a bank, they were all wearing costumes. Like, that's what you did. That's what you did. So, like, in the background of every scene, there's always just a bunch of fucking guys where you're like, who's that guy? What's that fucking weird costume that guy's wearing? And then eventually these guys would come out of the woodwork because he'd be like, yeah, he's kind of interesting. I like how he looks. People liked him. And there's a bit of that vibe here, especially in the Rogues. So then you got Heatwave, Mick Rory, who's like a classic fire, kind of villain, and he's been shown, I think, in the more recent time to be very badly burnt, and his background with fire is very cool. Like I said, I don't remember all the details of all this stuff. I just remember loving every fucking one of them, and and I didn't want to go just cheat and be sitting here and reading off of Wikipedia or whatever, because really I'd like to encourage you to read it, and just giving you sort of the basic things that he's dealing with. But with all these guys, I think Captain Cold and Heatwave, they both are using like a gun that gives them their power, and same thing with a Mirror Master. He's got like this mirror gun, but they are able to really use it in very clever ways. I guess there's just a lot of writers who have been able to kind of soup up the various ways in which this can be used to affect the Flash and affect his speed and stuff. And I was always very, very kind of impressed by the interesting ways that they would be, kind of fucking him up, even though they were relatively like goons. but it's great. A weather wizard, he's got a magic wand that he uses to control the weather like storm. Mark Martin, and I love his like very simple green and yellow garbage bag suit that Scott Collins, I think, designed for him. It's awesome. They look great as a group. Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Heatwave, Weather Wizard, and the new trickster Axel Walker, who's this young dude with shaved hair on the side. And he's got baggy pants, and he's kind of just was a goofy kid of the moment. But he was great. He had a great backstory and was well executed as well. It's like a lot of characters, so it was, forgive me if I don't remember everybody. Captain Boomerang was in there a little bit, but not really so much used in Jeff Johns' run. But he did create Captain Boomerang 2, who was the son of Digger Harkness, and I like Captain Boomerang a lot. And Captain Boomerang's son was okay. I forget where he first showed up. I think it might have been an Identity Crisis, but I think Jeff Johns had created him. I don't know what the story with that is, but he's not a favorite really. The original Captain Boomerang is, though. Then there's The Top, which Jeff Johns reintroduces during his run. The Top is fucking awesome. I think I have some do I have some background on some of these guys written for some of these guys? Yeah, The Top. He was much more powerful, apparently, than when he was, because I didn't read those original things. But he could like mentally manipulate people, as everything was spinning, vertigo or whatever. I forget exactly so many of these details. So forgive me the details that I can't forget. I'll try to shut up about what I don't remember. And then Pied Piper's in the run as well. And Pied Piper wasn't necessarily a favorite of mine, and they'd made him like a villain. And then they'd made him a hero. He was like a reformed villain. He was a friend of Wally West. I liked that Wally West had reformed one of the villains, but I didn't necessarily love Pied Piper's character. He was only used in there a little bit. I remember there was a number of characters that would show up as really good friends of Wally's. A lot of them from the Teen Titans, like Victor Stone, Cyborg, and Dick Grayson, and those were cool people to see show up. And all their relationships always felt very, very much like Jeff Johns had read these issues of Teen Titans that I'd never read. So I really loved it. I mean, like I said, generally speaking, every issue of this book was great. Sometimes there was clearly editorial edicts for him to make some major adjustment, and it would sort of the book would sort of suffer for a second as it sort of had to capitulate to some of the editorial demands that were upon it. But it would always get back to something really great. Okay, so then you've got Golden Glider, who is Lisa Snart. It's Leonard Snart's sister who died, which gives sort of some pathos and things to his character and some stuff he's going through. And there's some relations with her and that is connected to other rogues and stuff, and fun stuff. Just her as a background character, but she's not necessarily a favorite. Rainbow Raider, who didn't show up a lot during Jeff Johns' run, but is a fun one. Roy G. Bivolo. Tar Pit, who's just this massive tar pit dude. You know, there's a whole bunch of villains who are they're just like Girders, another one. He's just made of fucking girders. He just looks really cool, and it's a difficulty for the Flash to overcome. It's like everything's, the floor's on fire, Flash. What you can do now, man? Whatever. There's just new things for his speed to have to come up against, and the variety of these villains make it a lot of fun to have him fight so many of these guys and have to be put into different situations where he has to use his speed in different ways. One of my favorites from this time, which I think was designed by Ethan Van Sciver, is Double Down, Jeremy Tell. And I don't even know how to describe this motherfucker. He's got, his skin peels off, but it peels off as playing cards, and then he can telekinetically throw the playing cards at people like these thin razor blades that cut people up. So he's got skin telekinesis. He's a creepy ass character. It's usually when Ethan Van Sciver would draw him, he had one of the pieces of skin was just coming up over his eye, and it was his eyes all exposed, all weird. He's creepy. Double Down. I don't even know if we ever got a full story with him. He was just in the background of scenes sometimes, and you were like, holy fuck, this guy is creeping me out, man. I'm going to be dreaming about him. He's a truly sort of weirdly horrifying card-related villain. Awesome, though. These are, I have to say, it's if you're not going to fucking do something with these characters in The Flash, do another Batman game and put Batman in Iron Heights, dude. And, have him fucking fight some of these dudes, because this is just some great shit. Great bad guys. Girder, who I mentioned earlier. There's a character, Magenta, who's an older character who's kind of crazy, and she's often getting manipulated by the other characters. I think she's kind of in love with him, was maybe part of the thing with Wally. And maybe there's been multiple of the Magenta character, but she's got Magneto type powers. She's this purple chick. She's cool. There's Murmur, who's another super fun one, Michael Amar. He wears this mask and his mouth's sewn shut and his eyes are sewn shut, and he's and then when you opened with I don't want to spoil it, but when they finally took his mask off, his mouth was sewn shut too, and he was sewing people's mouths shut, and he's largely just going around with a fucking sharp, jagged knife. I don't even know how the hell he was getting the drop on the Flash in any way, shape, or form, but he was. I don't remember what. I wasn't this doesn't make any sense. I was this is amazing. So obviously Jeff Johns was doing whatever it took to convince me that made sense. But fuck. Then you got the Folded Man, who's more of a character from the Mark Waid run, if I am correct. Not a big. I'm not really super familiar with him. He was a dimensional kind of powers or something. Plunder, who was a mirror version bad guy. The thing here was listing him as a mirror version of Wally West. He wasn't a mirror version of Wally West. He was a mirror version of this detective Murillo, who was one of the characters. There's Carter. It was a Maine detective who was like wrapped up in things a lot. He was really cool. Liked him. He was a really big dude, and he had a big white guy with like white hair, older guy. And then there was he had a young partner who I guess kind of looked like Hispanic, and he was secretly this bad guy. No, well, we thought he was secretly this bad guy, but it was a mirror version of him, Plunder, who was just sort of like just a dude with a rifle showing up in inconvenient places and doing, fucked up things. Amarillo was a real sharp character. It was cool. The detective characters were cool. I liked them. And Wally's love interest, Linda Park, I enjoyed that. So then the whole list here of these evil speedsters that I made, and like all of these guys essentially have the same powers. I am not a huge fan of basically any of these characters. I do like Zoom because he's got the good look, and they've got, they really did a good job just tying some of these characters together in different ways, and the Reverse Flash thing, and like they did this whole thing with the Flash family, and this was the thing to make up for when they brought back Barry and trying to keeping Wally around and giving him something to do. But I mean, really, it was the worst thing ever. It killed Wally. And Wally was, I really think, the most important character in the DC universe that had not been fully realized that way. They had not been able to recognize what they had to properly sell him to the audience that way. And Jeff Johns was doing it, but instead of blowing up Wally with some big storyline for him, they blew up the Flash by changing it to Barry. And when they did that, honestly, it just, the whole thing, like the parts that were good about it, I just couldn't even enjoy because it was so disheartening to lose the character that I'd spent so much time with and I loved so much and had really earned being the Flash. I had a great pitch that I wanted to pitch for a while at DC where it was going to be called The Flash. It was going to be the fastest humanitarian alive, Wally West. And that instead, because he basically felt like Barry was being the Flash, so might as well go do some good in the world. And basically all of these organizations start aligning to stop him from doing any good in the world, and trying to defeat him, trying to prevent him from feeding the hungry and building bridges and doing things that could be done. And that was a cool way to give him something to do. I love that character so much, and I hated him just losing his I don't want to say position, because it was just like he was the Flash for me. And it was sort of like Barry, you sit down and become somebody else. This motherfucker's been doing this a long time. It's kind of like if like you came back after 30 years and this guy and your wife had become, they thought you were dead, blah blah blah, and now you're here. Do you start banging his wife again? Because that's like that's what's going on here, basically. It felt so fucked up. I really could not stomach those ones. And so much of this story stuff is all based around the Speed Force and Speed Family, and it's the speedy good guys against the speedy bad guys, and to some degree I just want to throw up. I really don't care for the stories where the bad guys are so similar to the good guys. I think that Jeff did the best that he could with this, and I think he was kind of asked to do it probably. But it's just all this shit just didn't work. Anyway, going through quickly just the list of the various fucking evil bad guys who use speed in some way. You've got the Reverse Flash, Eobon Thaw, who I've said, Professor Zoom. We've got Zoom, who's Hunter Zolomon, who's a character who shows up in the book, and Wally and him have some history, and it's really well done, all the stuff with Zoom. There's Godspeed, who's not really featured very much in the Jeff Johns stuff. Savitar, Inertia, which is Thaddeus Thawne. He's an evil clone of Bart Allen. He's I'm okay with, because he's like a reverse Impulse. Then there's a Black Flash, who's like a Speed Force Grim Reaper. and Johnny Quick, who's from the Crime Syndicate. Johnny Quick, I don't mind either. The Crime Syndicate's cool. They're from a different dimension. There's Dark Flash, though, which is Walter West, who's an alternate future Wally West. I wouldn't say that Dark Flash was necessarily an evil version, though. I'm pretty sure I read Dark Flash. He had a really cool costume, and I tuned in for that. But he like disappeared after one issue or whatever. He wasn't around for very long. I don't remember. And then recently there's Red Death, who was like a Batman version of the Flash. And then somebody named Speed Demon, who I'm not exactly sure who that one was. But then on the great side of things, on some of my favorites, you got fucking Gorilla Grodd, the Psychic Ape. You got the Turtle, who's really fun. Jeff Johns had reintroduced him, and I think he readjusted a lot of these characters and their abilities, but he had slow motion abilities, and it was quite fun. The Turtle, slowing everything down to a crawl. There was a character Cicada who was really cool. He was like this old dude with his beard and these glasses, and he could drain people's life force. Then the Thinker, who's had a lot of different incarnations. The one that Jeff Johns had introduced, I think it was like an AI version, and I think it was Clifford DeVoe, Thinker 3. I'm pretty sure it was Thinker 3. And that he was very cool, and just like, some sort of brainiac type character for the Flash to fight the Thinker. Kilgore, I don't remember Kilgore very well. Cobalt Blue, I don't remember Cobalt Blue. Abracadabra is fucking awesome. Sorry. Abracadabra was known as a technomancer from the 64th century. So he looks like he's like using magic, but basically his magic is basically future technology. So he's just so advanced that he's fucking around with this. And he's got a cool all of these costumes, these bad guys, they look great next to each other. And in particular, Abracadabra, he well, not Abracadabra in particular, but all of them, they, in the prison in Iron Heights, he makes the villains wear their stupid costumes, but without the gear. So they have to wear their dopey threads and be embarrassed in the prison. Then this is like a mental torture he's putting them through. He's great. Warden Wolf. He's got a great design too. I think designed by Ethan Van Sciver. He's got like just kind of like Gambit's eyes, but like in reverse, orange eyes or something like that. Very cool. Black and like a color. So Abracadabra's cool. Also love Dr. Alchemy, who's Albert Desmond, the Philosopher's Stone wielder. For a while, Albert Desmond, he was just in Iron Heights. You just saw him not really doing anything, working on things, and then eventually he just burst forward after having been plotting all this time in Iron Heights. Mr. Element was kind of a fun one. I think he had like an element gun kind of thing too. Then we got there's Dr. Element and Mr. Element, so I'm not sure which one. One of them might be the update of the other that I'm pretty sure Jeff Johns had introduced Mr. Element or Dr. Element at some point. And I remember them being fun, but I don't remember a lot about him. Fallout, as I said, who was powering the prison, who was powering Iron Heights. The Shade would show up every now and then, who's kind of a character in other books, but beyond that, he's controls the darkness and disappear into it and stuff like that. He's very cool, shadow-based. And he's an immortal, I think. Some of the other great ones. Brother Grimm, who I think is one of the first villains that Jeff Johns has him deal with. His magical villains, time warp, and this is like an alternate reality, medieval style reality. Don't hold me to all of these details, like I said, but it's great. You can hold me to the fact that it's great. Yeah, it's just so funny. The thing is, it was described online. He's cursed with skin made of razor sharp playing cards, but he's like more than that, man. It like peels off of him and he like throws it at people or something. It's like a weird ass Double Down. That's Double Down. He's creepy, that one. There were other ones who showed up. I think Rune showed up maybe in Jeff's thing, and I don't remember exactly his thing. He had some links to Superman. and just like a scientist with vendetta against superheroes. This is not some of my favorites, but I remember there's a little bit more on this list. There's a lot of things that I copied from the internet. I was writing things down, so I'm trying to skip around here. Iron Heights, yeah, Captain Cold. So the Rogue Spotlight, Mirror Master. Yeah, like so, Mirror Master, like in the Jeff Johns things, it explores like some of his addiction issues. Like these are notes that I have on the background issues where they did just singular focus on them. So he had some upbringing things and then addiction issues, and how he became, a rogue. How he got the mantle from the other dude because he was the new dude. The focus on Captain Cold is his tragic past, his code of honor. And I think a little bit of stuff with his sister too. And they did a focus on Zoom, who I think this is the one focusing on the Hunter Zolomon, who was he was an FBI profiler, and he has this twisted philosophy on making Wally West into a better hero, and that was the whole thing where he was like kind of haunting him for a while, similar to the way Bane did, like I'm going to make you a better hero. So he seemed really unstoppable for a while, and it was quite cool, the whole story arc, and this was his like feature on him as a hero. But there was also the Trickster, and that he was like an FBI informant. I guess he was like a criminal, and like, yeah, just like showed him just being a little bit, having some sort of code of honor, not being a total shitbag. Gorilla Grodd had one. Pied Piper had one that was, was cool. Like I said, he wasn't my favorite. The Top had one though, where he returned with enhanced abilities and psychological kind of tactics. A lot of the cooler villains on the edge of Jeff Johns' run were psychological, like kind of cool Batman villains. And like seriously, if you're not gonna fucking use them as Flash characters, bring them over to fucking. Bring them over to the Batman universe. You got to do it. I mean, like seriously, I would love to just be the force behind writing a Batman Iron Heights with like the Flash as like a side character, whatever. Somehow the Flash gets taken out, and Batman is called as like an emergency and has to come in and like go into Iron Heights and fight some of these villains. They've got insane powers, a lot of these people. Could be so much fun. There's some great ones. Anyway, Jeff Johns' first Flash run starts in 2000, goes to about 2005. It goes from one issue, so issue 164 of the Flash to issue 225. So I didn't count that up, but we can count that up right now. I would say what that is. Approximately 50, 60 something, 60, 70, almost 70 issues or whatever. So, and there's some tie-ins. So you've got, in the Flash 164 to about 176, it's that fantasy thing. The first run that Jeff Johns did, was like a fill-in run. So you may not be super impressed by it. It's not the best. But Blood Will Run, I think, is like the first official bit where he starts to come in and revamp the Rogues. And you get Wally West dating Linda Park, his lady. And then you just a lot of just different rogues just kind of start getting introduced, like Cicada, new ones. But then also reestablishes the rogues proper, who are known as the Rogues: Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Weather Wizard, and others, which included, I think at the time, the new Trickster, but maybe not Heat Wave. Heat Wave came later. And I think they're being led by Blacksmith, who is this other new character who was introduced at the time. She had a cool look. But she was a crime boss of some kind, but she was, like the Savage Dragon run, she was a crime boss that had a cool look. So Wally learns about Iron Heights prison and how brutal it is. And somewhere in here is the Iron Heights one-shot, which, oh my God, it's one of my favorite comic books of all time. It's like a double-sized prestige format. It's beautiful, written by Jeff Johns, drawn by Ethan Van Sciver. It's fucking incredible. It introduces the prison's extreme conditions, features a major Gorilla Grodd attack. Don't hold me to the Gorilla Grodd attack thing, because that's what it said on the internet, and I don't remember that, and I didn't have my books. They're in storage in New York right now, so I didn't have those books to look at and see if that was right. I don't remember it being Gorilla Grodd. But it's fucking awesome. It's a big prison break, and he's in the prison, and there's so many rogues in it. It's freaking awesome. And the Rogue War begins after this in issue 177 through 191. Obviously, there's a lot of story arc going on here. You've got Hunter Zolomon, and they end up being friends. Wally and him are friends in the beginning. You've got the Plunder character getting introduced. He's crossing over from the other universe, and you've got the Zoom thing. Him being created as an evil to Wally specifically, because the other evil Reverse Flash was more for Barry, and their connections were more together. So this gave him his own Reverse Flash, which was cool. In issues 192 to issue 200, it's the story called Blitz. I remember being fucking awesome. This was really like what So Much had built to for so long. But you get Gorilla Grodd, you got Hunter Zolomon. I won't tell you all the details of this stuff because it's all great, and it's not necessarily like these big sweeping storylines like the Green Lantern arcs. There were big movements of like the thing. So I mean, this is just all storytelling that just gets tied together, and characters getting tied together, and moments getting tied together. Just some of the best comics I've ever read. I enjoyed this experience so much. I hope you enjoy it as well. It won't be quite as great as it was for me when I was going to the comic book store and having to wait a month to get the next issue and all that stuff. But it is a really great experience reading them in trade paperbacks, I'm sure, too. You got the things like the Cosmic Treadmill reintroduced here, which was a classic Flash device, the Cosmic Treadmill. There's a lot of things that got introduced in like the 70s and stuff to the Barry Allen's thing that sort of just made it all too crazy, and like they kind of wheeled things in a little bit. But good creators were fond of bringing back some of those nostalgic things. Like Grant Morrison's been great at this. Some of these things that were kind of interesting, but like were handled very weird at the time, and handling them in some sort of grounded way and demonstrating, like this is how it might have went. So the Cosmic Treadmill is really cool, getting that in here. I'm just kind of, like I said, I don't want to read things that spoil stuff for you because I want you to read it. Yeah, this is kind of cool. Unlike Reverse Flash Zoom, he doesn't run fast. He moves through time in bursts, which make him appear faster. And he's attacking Wally to train him in brutal ways to make him a better hero. But he ends up, I don't want to say, but basically he ends up really doing something dastardly to Wally that kind of gets undone, I think, in the future, and then gets redone. The things that happened to Wally West in his life is just terrible after Barry Allen came. After Barry Allen came, he just didn't matter anymore, and they just started doing all sorts of terrible things to him. I'm not even going to talk about all the terrible things they did to him. Just enjoy these issues and never think about Wally again after that. Okay, so you also got people like Jesse Quick showing up. There's a lot of great, kind of Flash family characters that he does handle really well. I really liked a lot of these Flash family things until Barry showed up and usurped him. I wish that Barry would have taken a different role in some way. It would have made me very happy. But that's not what the higher powers that be wanted. Okay, so this story arc was fucking awesome. And Wally's and Linda's love is on trial and proves strong. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Makes you feel good. Like I said, I named my kid after Wally. Wally West. My son is Cassidy West, and my other son is Grayson Wayne because I love Wally West and Grayson. That's how much I love. And these stories, this is like what did it. So the Flash 201 to 214, you've got a story, Ignition and Secret Identity, and Wally's secret identity being wiped. This was again one of those sort of directorial, like we got to do something big to change everything. So this kind of soft reboot where they wipe. He does something with Hal Jordan, the Spectre. Hal Jordan was the Spectre at the time, and he has the Spectre wipe everybody's memory of his secret identity so he can kind of change his life and protect his girl. I don't remember how long this really lasts for or whatever. There's some great Mirror Master stuff and some Trickster stuff that's great. And I won't tell you how it all works out, but it works out, sort of like, it's a fucking superhero comic and shit. But all of this shit builds and builds and builds. And 215 to 225, the Rogue War is the final arc here. And I think this really, it's really great and earns itself and just all of the stuff that it built to, because this was him putting away all of the Wally West stories before he moved on into the Barry Allen comes back situation. And the Barry Allen comes back situation starts in the Flash Rebirth in 2009. It's issues 1 through 6. wanted to love this as much as I loved the Hal thing, even though I knew I wasn't. And it is good. And if you want to continue and see what they did in some of this transition, you can check it out. Um, there are there is a run of I think like 12 issues in between this and then what is then Flashpoint. So I mean you don't even get very long with this Barry Allen Flash and everything before everything gets rejiggered with Flashpoint. Flashpoint's interesting. A lot of people like that story. Again, it's not my favorite from Jeff. It's like Flashpoint became like highly publicized, Rebirth became highly publicized, but this Flash run pales, and I mean really pales. It's okay. Pales in comparison to these. How many did I say it was? 60 or 70 issues with tie-ins. I mean, fucking incredible. If you just loved it so much and you really would just love to get a little bit of something close to that taste in your mouth after you finish reading the Jeff Johns bit here, just go on into, Flash Rebirth and the Barry Allen Flash reboot, which is like 12 issues, and then Flashpoint. But it is great. So I will say also there are some side things that you can check out as well. Like I said, there's the 12 issues in between Rebirth and Flashpoint. And then there is also Flash Secret Files and Origins. I think a lot of these things were collected into trade paperbacks, and they're great. In Final Crisis, there's a thing called Rogue's Revenge, and there's 3 issues of that, which are really awesome. It's a Final Crisis tie-in, which was written by Grant Morrison, and Grant Morrison's Final Crisis was really excellent, but is worthy of reading all at once and not month to month because it was hard to remember everything that he was putting down. But there was a lot of great tie-ins as well, and Jeff Johns' Rogue's Revenge was great. You got Captain Cold, Weather Wizard, Mirror Master, Heatwave, and Trickster, and they go after Inertia, who impersonated Kid Flash and caused Bart Allen's death. I think they brought him back, but at the time this was the thing. Really, really excellent. 3 issues of the Rogues. In Blackest Night, there's the Flash, and there's 3 issues of the Flash, and this is prior to Barry Allen being brought back, or was it Barry Allen? Wait, Blackest Night tie-in where Barry Allen becomes a Blue Lantern, while Reverse Flash and the Rogues battle Black Lantern versions of dead speedsters like Bart Allen and Professor Zoom. So I guess Bart Allen was dead at this time. Barry Allen was back at this time. Anyway, I remember those being great. And then Time Masters Vanishing Point 1 through 6. Not technically a Flash book, but it featured Barry Allen as part of a team. It's Booster Gold, Rip Hunter, Superman, searching for Batman across time after Final Crisis. This was cool too. Jeff had a little bit to do with some of these things. He was like orchestrating a lot of different story arcs and stuff at that point. But this is just if you want to go really deep. Anyway, that pretty much covers the amazing run that was the Flash, and there are a lot of people out there who would swear by Mark Waid's run. I'm sorry that I can't swear by Mark Waid's run. I love a lot of Mark Waid's other work, like his Fantastic Four work and other things that I've read by him, which I adore. So I do believe that it probably is really great. Just some of the graphic novels by themselves that I've read they don't do justice to the long form storytelling that I'm sure was on display there. So I recommend that as well, but I cannot recommend enough the Wally West Jeff Johns Flash, and I cannot recommend to you guys enough that you do not, kill Barry, get Wally in there. We need Wally West. Wally West has a sense of humor. He's the underclassman who's graduated. You need the Teen Titans. You need Wally on the thing. You need to get it in. And you can't cannibalize Barry Allen's personality because Wally West is your Spider-Man. Wally West is the DC Universe's Spider-Man. He has been so for a long time, and lots of us out there know, and he's so much better than Peter Parker because he didn't get powers and then decide to be a dick and let a bad guy get away only for his uncle to die. Sorry, people who love Peter Parker, but that's kind of what he did. Anyway, that's basically all I have to say about this. I am going to be doing a session in just a second for DILF USA with my buddy Andre, and I'm sure he's going to be here very soon. So I'm going to wrap this shit up by saying there are years and years and years of films to be made by DC if they simply honor some of the blueprint that has already been laid out by brilliant writers and creative people before you, and honor some of the paths that have become memorized by people like me, that Barry Allen died during the Crisis of Infinite Earths, that was a real major crossover that started over the crossovers of all these different things. There's no reason for you to just, you introduce the JSA and you introduce the Justice League, and then you have them cross over the same way that it was set up in the comics. You can do these things out the way they've been done before in fine, wonderful detail, especially because they've been done over and again by DC and by Marvel. Any story that was worth doing, they've retold the origin many times over. They've retold the first team up and the second team up and all these good moments of all these things coming together. They've told it every which way they possibly could. And people know those stories, and they like those crossovers, and they like those team-ups, and they love to see that stuff play out on the big screen. So you guys are doing yourself a terrible disservice to not go tread the path that has been tread before you, and this time recognize that Wally West is a keeper, and Barry's death is a meaningful keeper as well. It is the thing that gives character to your universe. I'm telling you. Anyway, this is Jesse Blaze Snyder coming to you with another awesome Coolest Geek Alive. I will tell you to tune into my Cool Esoteric Wisdom show, which I'm doing every Monday now because I'm not doing my music show on Monday, and it's easier for me to do Mondays. So next episode won't be until Monday, but you can check that out. I did the previous episode on RFK Jr. because I feel that he's really being slandered, and it's really fucked up, actually. He's a good man. I've watched a lot of time with him speaking, and he's very credible and intelligent. He does a podcast where he interviews people whose voices are important, and he's somebody who's thinking the right way. And it's abhorrent that the media people are allowing themselves to slander such a good person. And I mean, it's interesting. I want to put together a legal defense team to go and exonerate him for all the things being said, because it's not right. He's not a crazy quack. This is silly. So yeah, you can check out that episode, and I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about this week, but I'm sure it'll be something interesting and probably important to the moment, because I've just been unable to get away from all of the crazy things going on right now at this moment. So if you want my perspective on any of that stuff, I've been studying it all my life so I could be useful to my family and so that I could be useful as a writer. As many of you know, I've written comic books my whole life. I've also written some screenplays and things like that. I'm about to be doing some stuff for my family and their production company in the coming years. So, but I've written all over all sorts of things. And to be a really, truly great writer is either you go out and you do things, which I try to do that as well, or you study. And I've tried to study to be a truly great contributor to my family and a truly great intellectual capable of writing, because writing is only as good as the intelligence of the writing is only good as the intelligence of the human beings doing the writing. So, when I decided I was going to be a writer, being intelligent, genuinely, spending time working on that, has been one of my longest, hardest fought pursuits, to make sure that I am. Because, who wants to go out into the world thinking you're intelligent and being an idiot? But if you want to check out that show, I really have been enjoying doing it. I've been doing it on Facebook, and I've been doing all my podcasts on Facebook Live right now. If you want to find me on Facebook, if you're one of our super fan podcasters who's emailed me before or whatever, I've been doing it live on Facebook. I won't shun you if you try to Facebook my personal page where I do these lives. So you can join us over there. I'm doing one right now as we speak. But yeah, I hope you'll join me on Monday for the next episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. And again, next Wednesday for another fucking awesome episode of The Coolest Geek Alive. I love you guys. See you next time. Peace. You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
It's my favorite part! awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout. I'm a genius. I got lyrics coming out me bum for days. You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I played that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Foot in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right on text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
The podcast playground. Hooray!